The biggest needs for the Arizona Cardinals are clear as day, and I've got a ranking system. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter, Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. I alluded to this a little bit yesterday, but I think that it's important to expound a little bit upon it. What today's show is going to be, final segment, we're going to talk about the edge position, how it's absolutely necessary that the Cardinals bolster that. And then, second segment is going to be the offensive line is the number one bona fide biggest need the Cardinals have this offseason. I'll expound upon that. Also, I did just kind of want to give a broad overview from, a bird's eye view perspective as we're looking towards 2025, 2024 is beginning, to come to a close, obviously, with the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. Let's look at what we thought would be the biggest needs for the Cardinals first, briefly. Okay, first, please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button. You can subscribe free wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We thought maybe going into 2020, you probably still have to add a corner because the corners weren't ready. Probably have to add a safety because Budda Baker is probably going to move on. Pass rush is always of need, especially with BJ Ojulari out, and offensive line. Maybe a running back, even with Trey Benson, because James Conner is most likely going to move on. That's what people thought. I thought the Budda Baker and James Conner were always going to be here, but that's neither here nor there. The needs have shifted in some capacity. The needs have shifted in the sense that James Conner is still RB1. Trey Benson has shown flashes he could be RB1A/RB2, taking the baton from James Conner at some time in the next 2 years. Budda Baker played the best year of his career last year because he was able to just play free safety. Because why? The cornerback room was finally formidable in some form or fashion. They played very well. Garrett Williams is one of the best nickel corners, slot corners in the NFL. Max Melton has showed that he can play. Sean Murphy-Bunting in pockets played pretty well. I think he led the team with interceptions last year. So it's like, okay, well, maybe they don't need to draft a corner this year. Maybe all they need to do is just bring in a vet to bolster the room, and that'll be fine. I thought that Kazir White would be a shoo-in to re-sign with the Cardinals, TBD. So they may need to get an off-ball linebacker. But really, the biggest smack in the face were two things. One, we don't know what this defensive line and pass rush is because they were either all injured or came back for 5 games as a rookie. 4 games as a rookie? Darius Robinson. They were faceless. They were nameless. And if you don't put together an offensive line for 17 weeks that can produce at an elite level, the Cardinals aren't going to win anything. So we're kind of little convoluted. And then at the end of the season, it's like, okay, it's clear. Even with Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones and the money that Monty Osford paid them to come over here, I expect them to play better than what the Cardinals showed them off the field. Okay, BJ Ojulari is coming back. We don't know what he's going to be. He was set to be the lead in the pass rush room for the Cardinals after showing good production on the tail end of his rookie year 2 years ago. Then he tears his ACL in training camp. But luckily, amid all the mud and the muck, all the questions, all the uncertainty, now the biggest needs are clear, in my opinion. You're starting to kind of just check the boxes on a roster that, remember, only retained 45% of the players after the 2022 season to Monty Osford, Jonathan Gannon's first season. And you're going to start to see less and less players with familiar names continue to be here unless, they're practice squad guys. And you're able to slowly check off the boxes of needs on the roster that now bears fruits into what the Cardinals do need. So quarterback, we're not going to do that conversation yet, okay? Quarterback, running back, left tackle, center, tight end, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. I'm still good with that. The entire secondary. Mac Wilson. Good. Then you get into the could they upgrade Will Hernandez? Could they upgrade Jonah Williams? Jonah Williams, the latter, probably not, because he's going to play another year. So you draft a right tackle. It's the simplest thing you can do there. Or a guard who can play tackle as well. And then everything else are the biggest needs. So as we witness the Cardinals progress in their roster building, albeit much slower than many, but this is all organic with very, very minimal addition from the free agency group. And yeah, Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones got paid some cheese. It's not going to hurt the Cardinals, really, because they weren't ready to roll anyways. Brought some guys over. May work, may not. We'll see. But they're in a prime position with over $70+ million to spend. They've got all their picks, and they've got like 70% of their starting lineup built? 70? That's pretty good from 0, which is what it was 2 years ago. That's pretty good. And that 30% can be built out in an offseason. It's going to be predominantly, predicated upon free agency, and then BJ Ojulari coming back, and Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones coming back. Like, they need, on paper, on defense, they need, if Kasir White doesn't come back, a Mike linebacker. They need 2 interior defensive linemen and 2 pass rushers. So it seems like a lot, but it's not. And then on offense, if you were going to roll out the exact offense from last year, that's fine. Honestly, fine is not good. Good is not great. Great is not deep playoff run. But it's fine. With that said, if the Cardinals want to maximize the cap space they have, if they want to continue to leverage the rookie scale contracts that some of their star players are still on, this is the year to make that massive 0-1 jump. And it starts and ends with bolstering an already average to what showed to be an above average offensive line last year. It starts there. And I'll discuss why next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, man. FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust the bets as the game unfolds and feel like you're thrilling all the way through from kickoff to the final whistle. Download the app today or head to FanDuel.com and get started with betting $5. And if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 59. So here's the thing. Could the Cardinals use another receiver? Maybe. I still think Michael Wilson's a bona fide wide receiver too. I don't know. He's just not getting the looks. If the Cardinals drafted a pass rusher or one of the best interior defensive linemen at 16, would it be warranted? Yes. But I do think that the gap between need for offensive line and need for a pass rusher is broader than people think. There's more, it's more vast than people think, especially because the Cardinals will, I mean, unless Monty Osborne wants to lose, they'll add at least one impact pass rusher in free agency. I think that's a foregone conclusion. And again, you'll get BJ Ojulari back. Darius Robinson can maybe move inside, bolster the interior defensive line, so you can actually collapse a pocket from the A gap like the Cardinals haven't been able to do the last couple seasons. Yeah, the Cardinals, like, a lot of this is truly dependent upon Darius Robinson and BJ Ojulari, two real sights unseen guys with a trajectory, guys with a skill set, guys who have, been a part of the organization now for, a year and 2 years respectively. If they pop, that's like passive income. You're not expecting anything from them, not because they're not capable or not because you haven't seen that they were capable. BJ Ojulari in real time 2 years ago, and then Darius Robinson towards the tail end of a season that was starting to fetter away. But still, the offensive line reigns supreme. Let's look at it position by position. Paris Johnson Jr. set and forget next decade. You hope. Left tackle. Set and forget. It's hard to play left tackle in the NFL. And he does it pretty damn well. Left guard, Evan Brown. Didn't hear about him for the first 7 or 8 weeks. That means he was doing his job. You started to see leaks in the offensive line as the season progressed, namely after the bye week. He's a free agent. The upside is he can play center also, where this is also something that during this time, the Cardinals need to find somebody who is the utility center. If Hjalte Froholdt gets hurt, who can step in there and play 80 to 90% of the role of Hjalte Froholdt? That is paramount. It is absolutely paramount. You can't, I always go back to it, you can't have a Rodney Hudson and Max Garcia drop-off. Now, Rodney Hudson at his peak was better than Hjalte Froholdt. It doesn't matter. That's not what it's about. You need a guy who can come in and make you forget that Hjalte Froholdt's not playing. So whether that be through the draft, where you draft a guard who can play center, or through free agency, where you bring in a guard who can play center in kind of a utility role, that needs to be taken care of. That's one of the benefits of Evan Brown is he can play center also. But I think that they can improve at the left guard position because that was the strength of the Cardinals. It was on the right side. Sorry, 2 years ago it was on the right side, but Paris Johnson Jr. was on the right side then. Will Hernandez, Hjalte Froholdt, Paris Johnson just locked up that right side. The Cardinals need at least one side where it's like 100% you can trust that if you need yards, you run off tackle to the left. You run halfback dive up the left side of the A-gap. And they don't have that. They don't have that. Hjalte Froholdt in the center has been a vision. He's been fantastic. Okay, he was a steal. Like, before he got re-signed, I had multiple Locked On NFL hosts in my DM saying, so what do you think, what's the pulse on Hjalte Froholdt? I'm like, I don't let him out the building. You kidding me? He's way too valuable for this team. Right guard, Will Hernandez, bring him back. I don't get it. Bring him back. Bring him back. It's not difficult. Don't overthink it. Bring him back. He's been great. Bring him back. Oh, well, he's a free agent, so they're going to, why? Bring him back. And then Jonah Williams is going to be the interesting one. Like, the Cardinals could definitely utilize 16th overall with the best right tackle in the draft or the best left guard in the draft. This isn't about, oh, well, they have somebody at that position. No. We saw that in the last regime, passing on Tristan Wirfs, passing on, Jedrick Wills and Mekhi Becton, who ended up not being great. But for somebody else, because, oh, no, they've got their offensive line. They're fine. No. Think about the future, man. Monty Osborne is all about thinking about the future. On top of all of that, while it shouldn't be just divisional centric, and that's why I haven't brought it up until this point. That's why I didn't bring it up yesterday. The defensive fronts in the NFC West are diabolical. And they're young. Maybe not so much the 49ers, but the 49ers will just continue to bring in. So if it's not Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, it's going to be Nick Warner and Fred Bosa. It's like, who cares? Whoever the next hot guy is, they're going to bring. They're going to draft well. They're going to have a defensive front. Always. So if they're the least of your worries, you look at Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy, the rookie out of Texas, they're world beaters. You look, and then you've got the secondary to go with that. And then you look at the Rams with Byron Young and Jared Verse and Braden Fisk. It's like, this ain't going away ever. So you can either deal with it 6 games out of the year or power through it and instill dominance instead of having to cover up for weaknesses where other defensive fronts have strengths. And that's something that's been the Cardinals' MO forever. Be proactive. Fight fire with fire. Bolster the front line to protect your quarterback, to open up the run game even more than it already is, if that's what Drew Petzing's offense is going to be, and flourish. While that seems super simplistic and very easy from coming out of my big dumb face, that's how teams build offensive lines. Lane Johnson's been an Eagle for 2 decades. Jordan Mailata has been an Eagle for 2 decades. Jason Kelsey has been an Eagle, was an Eagle for not 2 decades. You know what I mean? Like, they're set and forget. You don't have to worry about it. And that's something that so many teams overlook. Oh, go get that wide receiver. Oh, go get that, whatever, pass rusher. If the Cardinals make the moves to position themselves to have a top 5 offensive line in the NFL, sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. Yeah. Is it boring? Sure. Does it win Super Bowls? Yeah, it does. It's proven forever. Look at Patrick Mahomes when his offensive line got hurt in the Super Bowl. They lost by 1 million to Tom Brady. They had no chance. Even the best quarterbacks without a good offensive line falter. Why wait? If you said the Cardinals went and got the best offensive lineman in free agency and the best offensive lineman in the draft, cool. Makes total sense. What about the defensive line? We add pieces. Get more draft picks. Get more money. If the Cardinals have a top 5 offensive line at the end of 2025, I don't even want to say it. I'm not going to say it. It's way too early. Start there. The rest will fall into place because the rest, although wildly important and showed to be much weaker position-wise, especially on the defense last year, if you ain't got a good offensive line, none of it's going to work. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Edge rusher. Next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easy to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Here's how it works. Post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find higher quality candidates. Post your job for LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms, conditions apply. Yeah, I didn't really expect this to be so potent coming from me. It's just watching these teams. It's just like Jalen Hurts just standing there behind the offensive line. And, Patrick Mahomes just standing there behind just like, oh my God. Yes, you know what? This is about biggest need. This isn't about, Kyler Murray ain't going to do anything with it anyway. So let's just chill with that. Okay. Pass rush. Yeah. Pass rush. Pass rush, edge rush is the biggest need for the Cardinals outside of the offensive line for this specific reason. The entire defensive line was hurt last year. And that's not an excuse. That's not saying something like, Monty Osborne signed the wrong guys. No. Let's remember, Bilal Nichols and Justin Jones have had good track records of health recently. Okay. So the fact that they went down pretty much back to back, it was more of an exception to the rule than the rule. It's not like he brought in guys, paid them a whole bunch of money, and they couldn't stay healthy for more than 5 games a year. That wasn't it. Darius Robinson is going to benefit massively. He may benefit most from BJ Ojulari coming back. And on top of them bringing in a pass rusher, whether it be situational or every down guy. Like, I'm not saying it's going to be Hassan Reddick. I'm not saying it's going to be anybody really. And I'm not saying that that's going to be the marquee signing for this season by any stretch. There are plenty of Yannick Ngakwe's and Daniil Hunters out there. There are. And there always will be. And the Cardinals finally have the cheese to give somebody a 2-year, $30 million deal with 18 guaranteed and not have it break the bank. So, of course, pass rush is massively important. And it could be said, could be argued, let's put it that way, because that's probably more what it would be. Cardinals would have been a double-digit win team if they had a pass rush last year. They lost a lot of close games where the defense held on for dear life, but wasn't able really to execute when need be, wasn't able to get a pass rush on third down that got home. There were a couple games. I remember the Detroit game when it was 3rd and 14 and Cardinals were down 20-13 with a couple minutes left in the fourth. Amon-Ra slant, no pressure, completion, and game over. That's just one. I mean, the Bills, week 1, they were 3rd and 14, 3rd and 15 multiple times. They just couldn't get off the field because they couldn't get a pass rush home to Josh Allen. And it wasn't like, oh, Josh Allen's so great. Yeah, he is. And they just had no pressure. They got no pressure on the quarterback. And that's something that bringing in a pass rusher or two would obviously help with. Now, if you told me that they took Jalen Walker, who's kind of an off-ball backer, who also is good off the edge, out of Georgia at 16, like, fine. It's not like, oh, no, they traded for Hollywood Brown instead of drafting Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa to play center because they already had Rodney Hudson. No, it's not that. It's not that asinine. Because they're both needs, definitely. Plus, like, let's be honest. Between just us, everydayers, and me, it's really fun to have a fun pass rusher to watch. It's really fun to have a talented pass rusher to watch. Like, Chandler Jones was great. Chandler Jones was an interesting he was kind of an anomaly because he was either sacking the quarterback, you could never find him. Like, he wasn't a pressure guy, really. Pass rushers are different now. Pass rushers are different. And it'd be really fun to draft a young pass rusher and have him eat. Like, if BJ Ojulari really turns out to be a top of the second round caliber guy, and you have another pass rusher guy from LSU with BJ Ojulari and Jalen Walker from Georgia, yeah, okay. Yes, of course it's more fun, and of course it would be impactful in a much more clear way if it worked. Sacks, pressures, forced turnovers, things like that. Draft a left guard, it's boring, and it can be the catalyst to the run game continuing to be the run game, and for Kyler Murray to stay, to have a clean jersey at the end of games. That doesn't mean that Kyler Murray's miraculously going to be a top 3 quarterback every week. That doesn't mean that James Conner is going to be 23 again. But it does mean it has, in my opinion, a more direct correlative to wins and losses, a strong top 5 offensive line, than a pass rush that has maybe even the same grade, a top 5, top 7 pass rush. Got to protect the quarterback. Having said that, they desperately need pass rush help, obviously. I do think the interior defensive line is going to be better than people expect going into next year with Bilal Nichols, Justin Jones, and Dante Stills plugging up the middle. Darius Robinson can move all along the line. And with BJ Ojulari coming back, you add a pass rusher on the other side. With this secondary, the Cardinals, I'm going to leave you with this. The Cardinals have the roadmap, the funds, the draft picks, and the lack of needs compared to where they were to have a roadmap to a playoff run in 2025. They do. That's just a fact. Is Kyler Murray the guy? We don't know. But they have a roadmap the needs have dwindled for the desperate needs that they have. Pass rush, interior defensive line being healthy, offensive line in no particular order. Monty Osford has one more solid offseason. We're having different conversations in January next year. I would choose to believe. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.